Hi, it's Jim Powers, a Hobie Island sailor, host of the Hobie Island offshore Zoom meeting that we're doing. And I want to just give you a brief introduction on the purpose for the event. It's really just to gather together interested Hobie Island sailors that want to share how they modified and sail their boats in coastal and offshore conditions. We had a small gathering of individuals that participated, and what follows is the actual recording from the actual Zoom meeting itself. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the recorded Zoom session. And again, we're looking to have a repeat Zoom gathering from individuals across Europe, the Americas, and Australia in 5 to 6 months' time. Enjoy. So, Mark, why don't you go next?
Just on mute. Yep, we began with Hobies in 2006 with the forerunner to the Oasis. It was called the Mirage Tandem then. That was great, really loved it. I ended up commuting to work in that. I used to go to work in it. And then I was after something a bit faster and got the island in about, the Adventure Island in about 2007, I think it was, 2008. And then got another island, ended up working for Hobie part-time here where I am I'm in Australia, the Central Coast of New South Wales, so around the Gosford area. And then in 2010, I got a TI, and that eventually replaced the Adventures, so the Adventure Island. So I ended up using that more than the others, and I sold the islands, sold the Adventure, and had the TI up until last year when I sold it, which is a bit sad. But I retired 2 years ago. I ended up getting a trailer sailor, so I've been using that. But I still love the TI. Go to great places, and I have a real soft spot for it. So yeah.
Great. All right, next, let's ask Oofwood. I'm not sure what your first or last name would be, but that's what it shows on the screen.
Yes, sorry, I put my my email up there. So my name's Darren. I live in Central Florida. I've always, 14 years ago, we ended up getting kayaks, but I've always, my wife and I, I've always seen the Adventure Island had been a nice idea. And then more recently, kind of looked back into them, and just a couple of weeks ago, we finally received, we bought a TI. We've been out in it twice now. Yesterday, we went out Ponce Inlet, which is, close to Daytona, New Smyrna Beach, and actually went out into the Atlantic just a little bit. So it was our first experience kissing the Atlantic in the plastic sailboat. I sailed when I was younger with my stepdad. He had a 27-foot Catalina, so he would sail out of California out to Catalina Island and back to Marina del Rey. So I have a little bit of experience. That was a long time ago though. But I've always loved sailboats. Always loved. I don't have space for a full-size boat, but my wife and I both love kayaking, and then the sail aspects. We're just waiting on the trampolines and the Spinnaker kit to come in, so we can add those to the island. They're on order. They're, I guess, with all the COVID stuff going on, Hobie's a little behind in their shipments on some stuff. So we're trying to wait as patiently as we can for the added sail. Yesterday we did over 18 miles in the Halifax River, or out the inlet, and then back up the Halifax River up towards Daytona, and then back where we put in at the boat ramp. The experience yesterday is we want to get a trailer. Right now I have a bed extender in my truck. Yeah. And it is a lot of work getting it in and out of the water, especially at a boat ramp. I have a cart. It's not a scupper cart. It's kind of one of the folding regular small boat kayak carts from Wheelies, and it works good. But just managing that thing all together, I mean, I think we're gonna pull the trigger and come up with a trailer that we can just take it all assembled, load it in, and try and store it on the trailer as well. So they make it a lot easier to get in and out.
Yes, it will. Yeah, I used to car top my AI, and it was just too much. And I went to get in the trailer, and it's
Yeah.
working great.
Also learned why people who put engines on them do. It was great going up the river. We were kind of had a good angle with the wind, not directly into the wind, but coming back, with the current, with the pedals. I mean, we were barely crawling along at a mile an hour, and it's like it'd be really nice to have a little small engine to kind of help in these cases. So
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, and since we started this recording, I'll just introduce myself as Jim Powers. Maybe Damien, Velen, and Jeff just reintroduce yourselves. So Damien.
Yes, I'm Damien. I'm from Sydney, Australia.
All right, and Velen.
I'm from Bulgaria. My name is Velen Kirimov. I'm a local hobby dealer in my country.
And Jeff, we're just doing a reintroductions because we started the recording of the session.
Yeah, Jeff Smith from Queensland, Australia.
All right, great. And again, Jim Powers from Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania in the US of A. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing I want to cover on the agenda is just talk about some definitions here. And I want to bring up a second slide and just talk a little bit about what we mean by offshore island sailing. So let me just do a quick share of this. And everyone can chip in. So there's no hard definition here. It's just more of kind of getting some grounding as to how we want to kind of define this space. So I put this together. Let me know if you could see the screen. You guys see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. So these are just some definitions more from like Wikipedia and other places. So offshore sailing, it can mean any passage that takes you out of sight of land, more than 12 miles offshore, lasting more than 12 hours. So that's, one person's definition of kind of offshore sailing. Coastal sailing, sailing in tidal waters with waves, currents, typically in the salt water, less than 12 miles from shore. And there's some definitions that more around how fast can you get medical attention. Coastal sailing, when you can receive medical treatment within 24 hours. Blue water sailing, medical treatment's not readily available for up to 3 days. You're kind of doing an ocean crossing. And then ocean sailing, when medical treatment is not available for more than 7 days, and you're maybe down on, I don't know, Southern Oceans, Indian Ocean or something. So these are just some definitions. And when I talk about, the title of this Zoom meeting was kind of Hobie Islands, offshore, I think it's probably more like the coastal sailing.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I'm thinking. And then I try to put some pictures together, especially for folks that maybe don't have an island, or haven't, been in a Hobie AI or TI. And kind of on the left, I'll call it lake sailing, more calm lake sailing. So it's not dealing with major waves, not dealing with tidal river currents. More of an easier go of it. And some of the pictures on the right-hand side are actually from some of my videos, some of you guys mentioned, where it's more offshore. You're dealing with waves. You're dealing with tidal conditions, currents, shoals going through inlets, from oceans to back bays, rip currents on launches. One picture here at the bottom, this was a Hobie Tandem Island, actually got swamped. And I don't really know the whole story, but that was from this year's Water Tribe Everglades Challenge that took place in Florida back in the month of March of this year. And this is I don't know how many of you are familiar with, in the US anyway, there's something called Water Tribe, a group of kayakers, small sailboats that do overnight challenges. They do 200, 300, 600, 700 mile trips And then they have, they have all kinds of technology. They spot track everybody, and so it's kind of a mini race, but also more of a challenge. And unfortunately, this year they actually had one sailor lost their lives. As part of that, there were some big waves that caught some boats unawares. Anyway, so these are some definitions I just put together. If I had to say, for the Hobie Islands, I would say we're probably closer to this this coastal definition, as opposed to the true offshore, which you're a little bit further out. So what do you guys think? Just so many thoughts? If you had to define the type of sailing you do, how would you categorize it?
Yeah, certainly coastal sailing is what we've mostly done. I mean, we've got a huge coastline here, of course, and we've actually travelled most of New South Wales up to Yamba, actually. Just not sailing from one end to the other, but putting in at different spots and exploring. So we have done a bit. But there was a bunch of surfers came down from Byron Bay to Bondi in there. That was a famous one from a few years back. I was hoping to meet them when they came down our neck of the woods, but we didn't get the times right. I went out looking for them. I couldn't see them off Broken Bay. But that was an amazing adventure. And I think they did the same thing in California. They did another one.
And these were surfers on surfboards.
No, they're surfers on islands.
On islands, oh, okay, yeah.
AIs and PIs. I'm trying to think of the transparency. If you Google that, you'll get some good info. But they came down the whole of the New South Wales coast,
Okay, yeah.
From Byron to Bondi, pulled into beaches on the way down, slept, and then kept going. Yeah. It was an amazing adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a number of adventure type sails under the auspices of a group called Water Tribe in the U.S. at least, and they do Great Lakes, they do rivers, they do coastal areas, and they do quite a bit around Florida, in the winter months when it's a little bit warmer down there. So, but yeah, I think it's Damien. If you're going to look up any guys down there, I think the Water Tribe would be a good place to look up for some local resources. All right, well, that's enough for the definitions. Really, the next thing was just to have each of you guys just kind of share, some of the modifications that you've done to your boat. And I don't know if anybody wants to go first, but about any modifications you may have done. I have a couple of little clips on video. I was just going to show my outboard mount and some other things like that, but leave it up to you guys. Anybody want to volunteer about anything you would like to share about modifications you've made to your islands to kind of help you with this? I'll call it coastal sailing.
I'll throw one out there, which is probably one of the most controversial ones, and it's the little shear pins, the plastic ones that come with the boat. So I haven't got around to rigging up various sort of lines to stop the armors and uckers from folding in, and so I just simply took out the plastic shear pin. I've replaced it with a stainless steel pin on each side. At least that will get me by for the moment, but yeah, I know it's discussed in the forums, and there's a lot of pros and cons to either using like ropes to rig up to keep it sort of from folding in, or using the metal shear pin. But if you have the metal one, I know if you're sort of going into dock and you go a bit too hard into a jetty, you can do a lot more damage and break more things. So, but I think for me, the peace of mind, like doing my sort of first coastal water sail, now that I've seen the definition, that having that metal pin in place gave me a lot of peace of mind, so I didn't end up capsizing and not being able to flip myself back. So yeah.
And for the non-island sailors that are on the call, so there's amas that are on either side of the Tandem Island, and there's akas, which are the bars that hold the amas out, and there's a little brace that you swing them out and you clip it in, and there's a brake pin in there made out of nylon, basically. that if you hit something, it'll shear off and not damage the boat. But so how many, the rest of you that have islands, raise your hand. We got another, Jeff's rejoining, looks like he dropped off. Give him a second here.
Do you have trampolines, Damien? Do you have
Yeah.
tramps?
Yeah, I always have them out as well. And with the trampolines, like the clip closest to the main hull, I feed underneath the main akaba, I think
Yeah.
you would call it. So at least like that would kind of hold it in a bit, I think.
It does, yeah. I've never broken one with the trampolines on. So I use the tramps constantly, or I did. And the only time we did break one was when we didn't have tramps. I've broken two, and neither resulted in a capsize. In fact, I posted a video of one of sailing with one just holding it out and coming back in and out and stuff. So it's not necessarily a disaster when it breaks. Like the two times that I've broken them, we haven't capsized. Yeah.
Yeah, the tramps will help you from it collapsing rapidly. I do a lot of sailing without the tramps, mainly because I do go through some heavy water with waves crashing down on top of the tramps, which I really don't like too much. But anyway, show of hands for those that are sailing islands or have. Use the nylon pins or use stainless steel? Who uses the nylon?
Yeah,
Stock.
I only ever use nylon. Yeah.
Who uses the metal? Me
Some
too.
guys use the ropes.
Yeah, it's they're made to break. But I'm out in the waves a lot without the tramps, and I even have the safety lines put on to keep it from falling back. But I've been in a couple situations where the safety lines broke. So anyway, I've gone to having just using the metal pins, stainless steel. But I'm sail unusual conditions, so it's not everybody's cup of tea. And it can cause some additional damage. Luckily, I haven't had, severe damage. The main damage that can occur with the metal pins is the knob that you put that brace onto, that clip it on. When you slide it out and you snap it onto that knob that's built onto the gunnels of the kayak, that could get bent.
Yeah.
Roll it into the hole. So that's the hard part. But luckily, I haven't done that yet. So, and I've been sailing with the metal pins for 5 years. So, but it's not recommended. I'll be honest; it's not recommended. Probably the best approach would be stronger safety lines and still stick with the nylon pins. All right. Who else has like to volunteer any modifications they've made to their boat?
I can share a short video of my adventure island in the chat session.
And let me. I believe you should be able to go ahead and share. So I don't think I'm sharing anything right now. So yeah, go ahead and share, Dylan. If you can't share, let me know. There might be a button I have to push.
Host disabled.
All right, so yeah, let me go in and. All right. There you go. All right, try it again.
Just a second.
And if anybody else has short video clips or things you want to share, go ahead and tee them up. This is open to everyone to share something here. It looks like you're starting to share your screen. And something's coming. I can see a video now. Yep.
Yeah, I used Railbaza stuff, a lot of accessories from Railbaza and Falcon box.
It looks like, yeah, a Railblazer with a sheet. That's for like the Spinnaker or main sheet.
Yeah, this is the sheets from the Spinnaker.
Okay.
Spinnaker.
Spinnaker sheet, yeah. That's a neat idea. I never really liked the way they had it set up, the stock setup. Yeah, I like it. How many of you use the Spinnakers or have?
Yep. Great accessory. I loved it. Yeah.
Yes, I've got the Spinnaker as well. Although I must admit, I tend not to use it a lot.
Yeah, same for me. I have it. I had the original setup for the. I got a 2016 Ti. That mast topper that initially came out was just too low. I kept tangling with the battens on the main. I ended up trimming the battens down. That still wasn't enough, and I haven't got around to getting the higher topper yet.
It doesn't. The higher topper doesn't help a great deal. It made very little difference.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me, and it kind of complicated it a little bit. It looks great. All right, anybody else like to share something?
Well, the best mods I did were adding haka, so hard seats on the sides. The outboard, definitely, even though I was skeptical about that to start with. The outboard just transformed what you could do.
Yeah.
You know, often we'd sail all day, beautiful, come back and the wind would die and you'd have to pedal, and we'd get back in the dark quite a bit from day trips. So the outboard just increased, like easy to do a 60-kilometre day. No problems at all with the outboard as a backup.
Yeah.
I think the haka, the trampolines, the haka, the outboard, and the Spinnaker. I did love the Spinnaker. It was great. Well, where they're weak is downwind sailing, and that's where the Spinnaker really comes in. So, yep. And then I had a 2010, so I ended up adding the vantage seats and everything. So I kept it sort of. But I posted all that on the forum. I'm stringy on the forum.
Okay. Yeah.
So, so all those things are there to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could add the vantage seat to the older TIs, but yes, you can.
Well, it wasn't
added, oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
A lot of,
You had mentioned downwind sailing, and I was wondering if anyone has added outhauls to the main sheet as well to kind of pull it out. Because right now it seems like when you're going downwind, it tends to taco more than catching the wind. Whereas if you had an outhaul, you could pull the sail out further, keep a good shape, but catch it downwind a little more efficiently.
Yeah. That was discussed. There's quite a bit on that on the forum where people have used different things, like attached pulleys to the ends of the akabars, or I ended up using a boat hook to hold it out.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Some telescoping, almost mini booms. People stick on them to kind of hold it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the islands, especially the Tandem Islands, a great boat to sail. Not the best pointing into the wind, close hold, and it's not the real best going straight downwind either because of some of these same issues. Spinnaker helps quite a bit downwind, obviously.
Yeah, this Spinnaker really helps there. So, yeah.
All right, let me share. I'm just going to share the little video clip of just the outboard mount. Some of you guys probably seen the video, but let me see if I can do this here. Share.
Just while Jim's sorting that out, it's Jeff here. I've added this outboard mount as per Jim's design, having owned the TI for 3 years without it and done quite a lot of pedaling against currents, and it is a game changer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Jim Powers showing a outboard motor mount on a Hobie Tandem Island. Just real briefly, just go over the basics. Track mount, both on the starboard and port side. It's key to get this track mount as close to the inboard on both sides in order to get a level platform here. This is a 1 1/4 inch aluminum stock that's used for the base that sits on top of the track. And then there's a 2-inch square tubing, a small block here that's used just to elevate the position of the outboard motor so that it doesn't catch the waves on the starboard side. And then again, another bar of aluminum tubing, square 2 inches across, that sits on top. This design allows the water that might hit you from a wave to flow freely. There's no blockage. The hatch also opens up, of course, so you can still get into the hatch. And then on this side, you can see the position of the down position. This is a short shaft, 2.5 horsepower Suzuki 4-stroke. And you can see the position of how that sits on top of the mount right here. So again, the track mount underneath here, it has a long bore, a strong back underneath, so it's actually one piece of metal that runs the full length of the track, and it's tied into that, into pre-tapped holes. That's attached, this 1 1/4 inch piece is attached. I've used 3 attachment points, so 3 bolts. That again, these are just standard track mount hardware that you can use to mount this. So you can easily unscrew these, lift the whole mount bracket off when you're not using the outboard, or just drop it in, attach these bolts for easy mounting of the Suzuki. So it works great. Just tip it up so you can see the up position, and this is the position it's in for most of the time when you're sailing. And again, it gains about 3 to 4 inches off the top of this rail here to any waves coming by don't hit this and splash back onto the person sitting in the rear seat. So that gives you a quick overview. It runs very well. You can get about an hour of run time with the internal tank here, and just at half throttle, typically get around 6 knots, and with everything down. Occasionally I sail with both the motor and the sail, just gain some extra speed when running long distances. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the quick overview. All right, you guys could see that all right?
Yeah, that's the best evolution. It was interesting when you follow the Outboard forum. Interesting to see how it's evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is probably that combines most of the best advances that they had with the outboard mount. I like the track. The track, yeah.
I found it. I'm a biochemist by training, and I'm not. I don't do a lot of this boat modifications, but with the Hobie TI, I've been tinkering a lot. It's one. I think that's probably the best thing about coastal sailing with the island, is that it enables you to try out and experiment almost on a constant basis, new stuff.
Yeah.
And the outboard, I've had it now for probably year 4 almost, and it's been a game changer. I can run 50-mile runs with the boat and not have to worry about coming in at the dark, as Mark indicated, and it just adds a lot of safety. To me, it's probably the biggest safety feature I have on the boat is the outboard, because I can get out of Dodge quickly. I think I shared on the forum. I did almost a 40-mile loop around New York City Harbor this past week, and we had some great sailing up around Manhattan, in New York City. Went up through the East River. And anybody who's never been up there, you get up towards Hell's Gate, you get currents that approach 5 knots just by the tidal currents going back and forth. And it's almost impossible you can even get up over 6 knots at certain times. So I had a great sail into the East River, And then turning around, I had to fire up the engine to get back to southern Manhattan and then swing up towards the George Washington Bridge on the north side. And then once I got up there, a big supercell came in, thunderhead, and here in the U.S. with lightning storm basically. And we had hail and 60 knot winds. And I had to use the motor just to scream down the Hudson River to avoid that storm. So it saved me this past week. Wow.
That was a spectacular picture, that one you took.
Oh yeah, that showed. I got a couple little video clips. I'm about 5 trips behind them. I'm doing the video edits. They're taking me quite a bit of time. But I think the video is still on my phone, so I don't think I could even. But yeah,
I would have to add that the outboard definitely adds so much in terms of safety. It gives you just that extra option if, something breaks or a storm comes or you're just stuck in too rough conditions and you need that extra push to get out of it. If you're okay, I've got a little video on the Torpedo electric motor. So there's kind of the 2 options is you go the full outboard and you fabricate like metal brackets and things like that, which is definitely more powerful, definitely more range, kilometer or mile wise, and everything. When I bought my Hobie, it actually came with a Torpedo 403 ultralight electric motor, which is sort of the step in between the full sort of horsepower gasoline motor. But it's been really good for me that it just gives you that extra kind of push to get out of like hard currents and rough conditions, but it's not sort of added maintenance and stuff like that because it's literally just one battery that you'll charge up, and it the range is quite good on it, so I can get maybe 20 kilometers, which is probably about 12 or 15 miles or something like that out of and I've only got the mid-size battery, so it's 530 watts, whereas you can now get a larger battery which is 915 watts. So I'll just show you a really quick photo.
Please share your screen if you can.
I just hopefully you can see this, but basically it mounts sort of straight on the back of the boat, where it just has like 4 bolts that go through, so you do drill to put it in, but then it sort of sticks out the back there, and you can raise and lower it with lines, so you can do it from your vantage seat. And the other photo hopefully you can see as well is the actual controller, so you can go forward, reverse from the cockpit basically, and it tells you how much % you've got left, what the range is until the battery is going to die based on your current usage. So it has a GPS module in the battery to calculate that, and then your current speed and how many watts you're drawing. So it's got some really good features, and I'll just really quickly show you this video if I can switch.
I could see your screen, but
You see the video?
Yep.
not even yet. There it goes.
Torpedo motor at full speed.
Full speed is about 5 miles an hour or 8 miles maybe very quiet, so it's
A bit more stable. 7.4 kilometers an hour max speed. 340 watts.
Yeah, and there's some people are even sort of using solar panels to charge it on the fly. If you go on a camping expedition, like at least you can sort of charge it, but the solar is currently only charging at about 75 watts, but you need around 100 watts of power. So it's like you kind of can't just rely on the sun to push True, yeah.
If you had it, what size is the panel? The solar panel?
So there's a folding panel that's 100 watts
100
that you
watts.
can get. But then I think when you sit it on the trampoline, you don't get the full effect of the sun. So it can only charge about 75 watts. And I was running it yesterday in the Hawkesbury River at 100 watts, which is about, I think it's about 5 kilometers an hour. So it just basically saves you from pedaling if you just want to sort of sit back and like you're happy to go slow. Like it's a lot more efficient the slower you go, but you get a lot more range and everything. If you put it full speed, you deplete the battery like a lot quicker. But it's good. Like I'll go out and then I'll save it most of the day, and then in the last sort of I'll get quite far, and then in the last hour I'll just burn through the whole battery and get back right on dark. So it allows me to stay out till the last minute, basically. So, and it's a good emergency backup along the way as well.
Yeah. The problem I had with that was just the ridiculous price they are. I mean, it's horrendous.
Yeah, they're about 2,000,
Yeah.
I think. More, and the battery, the largest battery, which is 915 watt, I think it's in the US they're like about $800,
Yeah.
which isn't too bad, but Australian, like the cheapest you can get is like $1,500.
Yeah. That's why I stopped looking at those. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at the electric also, and Hobie did, I think, a good job recognizing that there'd be a need for this. You know, they made this option for, and there's two external power sources, right? There's one that fits in the drive well.
Yeah, so it's the same motor. It's still the Torpedo. It's just rebadged and called the Hobie Evolve, and it goes through.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, but I've never tried that one. But from my perspective, having it mounted on the back is really good, because if you hit like a log or a rock or something, like you have it on a bungee, so it can actually flip up and not tear things off your boat. Whereas I fear that if you have it in the drive well, like you could quite easily destroy things.
Yeah, you might rip up that drive well, and that's tough to repair stuff back down in that hole. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I could bring up the outboard run that I did in New York City here, but it's on my phone, still uploading, so we'll skip that for now.
There is an alternative to Torpedo, e-propulsion. They're a competitor. And I looked at them, and they're actually started by someone who used to work at Torpedo. And they're a lot more reasonable, but it's still big bucks, and that's what you've got to weigh up. You know, petrol motors, it's actually quite cheap. And you can go forever if you've got enough fuel. You know, that's the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody that's building a home-built electric motor. I posted a link up on the forum. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that. But
I did. Yeah.
He's saying that he can go, like 48 hours on the battery. He's doing some unbelievable stuff. It kind of shows you where that technology is going, with the improved cells and improved motors, brushless motors. They're making quite a bit of headway there.
I saw that video and I thought immediately I need to upgrade my Torpedo to that. It goes a lot faster.
If I may, I've got a few doubts that I'd like to share with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, most of you are based in the US or in Australia. You've been talking about offshore sailing.
We lost you, Jeff.
Heavily regulated, let's say. So, for example, hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah.
You're kind of dropping about every other sentence, but keep going.
Let me try to switch Wi-Fi connection and see if that works better. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was saying that in Europe, I think things might be a bit more regulated. I don't really know how it works in the US and in Australia. So, for example, there are two problems with the Tandem Island. One is on the sticker on the decal. It says well, apart from the capacity, which is another issue that I think is going to be fixed, the type of watercraft cannot go beyond, I don't know if it's 2 kilometers from the shore in Europe.
Yeah, the CE rating.
Yeah, the CE rating. That's one thing. Then there's an issue with the horsepower of the motor. That's also limited on the sticker. I get the feeling the US, Australia, you just don't care and you do it no matter what, which is probably the best approach. You don't ask, you just do it. In Europe, it might be a bit of an issue. I get the feeling they are looking into that at Hobie, because I've been following the information about Torpedo. You mentioned
E-propulsion.
E-propulsion.
Yeah.
There's also Bixby, although it's,
Yes.
it's not as powerful. Now Torpedo has a more powerful ultralight, the 1103, although there doesn't seem to be a proper mounting system for a Tandem Island. I don't know if the hull of the Tandem Island will change this year, probably not, to accommodate that kind of motor. But again, there is a limitation. Right now, I think legally, at least in Europe, we would not be able to use something like an 1103 on a Tandem Island unless they change the CE declaration of conformity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of, and we want to welcome Robert. Can you hear us, Robert?
Yes, I just joined. Apologize for being late.
No problem. We're about halfway through our session here, and why don't you just give us a brief introduction to yourself about where you sail from and what do you sail?
I just bought a used 2017 Adventure Island Monday, brought it back home to Cape Coral, Florida, which is about 10 miles east of Sanibel. We got 400 miles of canals. I've sailed a couple of times, but that's pretty much it. So I'm basically a newbie, and that's me.
No problem. Welcome. We're just talking about motors on our TIs right now. And Alessandro was talking about the limitations in Europe. So we have a couple Europeans, we have a few from Australia, a few from the US on the call. So welcome.
In Europe, you can use the Torpedo motor because the limitation is about 400 kilowatts, watts, and in the declaration of conformity is exactly for the 400 watts. I can share the screen with declaration conformity for the Tandem Island.
All right, yeah, and there's that decoration that has what the capacity is 600 pounds. I forget how many kgs, 2 people, and it's the CE classification. There we go, yeah.
Max recommended, yeah. 400 watts, yeah.
And the Torpedo is exactly the 400 watts.
Just to get underneath that. So that's that classification. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And, you know, as far as is that classification used in the US, not too much. Routinely see, you know, 3 or 4 people on a Tandem Island. I've actually had 4 adults, you know, 2 in each seat, and then, 1 in each seat, and then 1 in each tramp. So, and calmer water, you know, not out in the ocean.
Well, Hobie's marketing material's full of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that whole sticker thing, it is a shame that it says, I think it says maximum 2 people, but then I guess like from Hobie's perspective, if you strip it all down and you just have the main hull, like that's probably what it's rated at the minimum you can do. But yeah, often like I have heard of people getting into grief from it, but I don't know exactly what the regulations are in Australia, but I just try to follow a really common sense approach where if anyone was to stop me, they'll see, okay, I always have a bright life jacket on. I've got flares, I've got safety gear, I've got, you know, all the different stuff, EPIRB, personal locator beacon, everything. So at least like, because it kind of falls in a bit of no man's land here. Like it's not a kayak, it's not, there's a in the regulations like something for an outrigger boat, but there's not certainly no trimaran, and it's hard to define where it fits.
Yep.
That's right. And technically here, the TI actually needs to be registered. When you look at the fine print, because of its length, but no one ever followed that up either. Yeah.
Yeah, in the U.S., when I put the outboard on, then I had to register it. Mostly, they want more money for your annual registration. Putting the outboard on, but to me, the motor has become my number one safety factor when I'm going offshore. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of other Hobie Tandem Island sailors that are around me that kind of go to the coastal areas, so I'm almost always sail solo, which is dangerous. It's better to go out with a group of people. I just don't have that. And so, I do the EPIRB, and I have the VHS radio and the motor, and those are, I have had, I did get a hole in the bottom of the hole, one of my islands, and it started taking on water when I was offshore. And I was, I have a bailer, and I was using the bailer while I'm under sail, just to get it into the coast so I could figure out what happened. And, so there's been some times when you really need that ability to get out of a tough situation.
Was that the drive oil crack? Was that a drive oil crack?
No, it actually was a right below the mast step. That bolt, that's the stud that holds the main mast receiver to the bottom of the bolt. That cracked on the outside of the hull. And I think it was just from being overstressed, or was a weak spot. I'm not sure if I had a weak island. It might have been from using the spinnaker, and I since backed off of that. But yeah, that was a tough deal, I've had a number of patches, and as you know, you guys, I've sailed a little bit in I think I've shared. You mentioned that capsize. I'll just show you that capsize in the surf. I think you guys have, some of you may have seen this video, so I'll just share this for a second.
This is that your daughter in the front seat?
Yeah, that's the one.
I was surprised how bright, because she's the one copping the full force of the water. I thought, she's tough.
Yeah, she is. She's a tough cookie. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes.
Island surf launch in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
This time we have an outboard motor helping us punch out through the waves. And as you'll see in the video here shortly, we had a little trouble coming back in. We actually had a capsize in the surf. Sit back and relax, enjoy the video. Got a few notes and the subtitles as you go along.
Anyway, that's up there. But you guys can see the whole story later on.
Oh, that was a great video. I was surprised she went out again, actually.
Well, that going back, that's just a jump back to the start.
Right.
So what did you do to your engine after that when it went in the drink?
Somebody's asking the right question here. Okay, hold on a second. Minimize. You guys still hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, during that capsize, what it was, we had a hurricane offshore that was, maybe 800 miles offshore, and it was throwing in, occasionally you get a big set. But in between the big sets, it wasn't really a big challenge. But we got hit with a big set on the coming in. And what happens is the water, the motor was, I'm got the motor going pretty fast just to kind of stay ahead of it, and you stay ahead to a certain point, but then you meet the outrushing water from the previous waves. And even though the boat speed going through the water is still fast, the water's going out. So you get swept back out to the breakers, and knock us over. But yeah, that was about September last year. And yeah, that flipped over and we spent about almost 30 minutes with it on the side like that. And the motor was, that Suzuki was underwater in the salt water 30 minutes. It had gulped down salt water and sand. And so surprisingly, when I got it back to the beach, everything was intact. I didn't, you know, at first I thought the motor wasn't there. You know, we're going to basics. All right, are you alive? Yes. Is your daughter still alive? Yes. We're kind of going down the checklist, but anyway, long story short, the motor did swallow some salt water. I had to break down the motor over the next 3 days. It took me 3 days to empty out the salt water out of the gas tank. I had to change the oil 3 times. Got it restarted, but the water pump wasn't working, so I had to flush out the sand from the water pump. On these outboards, it uses water cooling, and if you you can't run it for more than a few seconds without that cooling going on, you ruin it. So it turns out there's just sand that got jammed up inside the water pump that's inside the engine. So I had to do some MacGyver type, activity trying to get that restarted. But after about 3 days of tinkering, I was able to get it restarted and started reusing it. I've been using it, probably had about 50 sails with it since. So I'm amazed at how rugged that engine is.
Yeah, I've been impressed. I slipped because I used to put mine on. I'd put the boat in the water and then carry the outboard down and load it on. And I slipped on a boat ramp once, and it went totally under the water. Not for long, but I was able to pick it back up again, of course. And it actually spluttered a bit, but then it started and kept going. So it's been an incredible motor.
Yeah.
Whereas you hear others like I think the Tohatsu, who was it? One of the guys there's posted a lot about the outboards.
Yeah, Prop 10, I think. And,
yeah, he had trouble with a Tohatsu, I think, just with splashing when it was out. Yeah. So the Suzuki's been very good there. Yeah.
And there was Fusion Engineering, that guy on the web. He had on the forum. He has two outboards on there. Just for redundancy. If he loses one, he's in trouble because he's in very stiff currents. At least he used to sail in some pretty stiff currents. All right, we're just at a point now where we're just sharing ideas about other safety things or other modifications you might have made to your Hobie. Anybody else want to share? I got a couple more, but I want to monopolize this. So anybody else have anything else you'd like to share?
Well, one of the simplest things I did was add a second handle to the front. 2 handles on the front is just fantastic for if you've got to haul it.
Yeah, I actually put 2 handles on the Hobie handles that I have all snapped. They rusted out or something on the inside, and I pulled them and they broke off. So I went to a third-party handles, but I ended up putting 2 handles in the front, 2 handles in the back. Also, I could lift it up with my own 2 hands.
Sure.
To put it onto the trailer or to pull it off the trailer. Because of the size, you really need it.
You can use the short H rails also.
Short what?
H rails. Like the Pro Angler series, they have H rails.
Yeah, the Hobie H rails.
Oh, yeah, H rails. Yes. Yep.
One thing I'm considering, I showed you that video clip earlier about the outboard mount. One of the things I'm thinking about is how to put that riser on it to put the pulley for the main sheet kind of above my head. I haven't done that yet, but I know other people have.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing that as well because on the back I've got the electric motor battery, then an esky, and then I also want to try and fit the wheel cart as well, just in case you're you're camping or something, and then the tide runs massively, and it's a 100-kilogram boat to drag along 30 meters of sand is not going to be good. But then if I have all of that there, it's the main sheet line is quite sort of obstructed, so I'd love to raise it as well.
It's Jeff here. I made a cheap main sheet riser bar. Having sailed without it for 2.5 years with several TIs, my experience with it is that it absolutely destroyed even the average upwind sailing of the boat. We were battling 4 TIs sailing together upwind in quite heavy conditions. And I actually pulled onto a sandbar halfway through that sail and unthreaded the main sheet from it, put it back basically to the original setting, and then I was able to point back to what I was used to, and my colleague with the same riser just got left behind. So ever since that day, I've just decided that the rope hitting me in the side of the head occasionally, if I'm not ready for it, is much better than killing the upwind sailing performance. And that was keeping the height of the riser, or where the rope is above my head, to a very minimal height. It wasn't high, it was only just clearing my head, but even that was enough to kill the upwind sailing performance. So I just gave up on that.
Well, that's good to know. That might hold me off because I'm already mildly disappointed with the upwind performance, and if I had to make it even worse, then I'm thinking about how to put a head sail on it. I was trying to think how to take a jib from a Hobie Cat 16 and somehow rig it to the front of the Tandem Island. But I'm a little leery about how strong that mast is. A little bit worried about how strongly it's anchored to the bottom of the boat. I've had the experience of snapping one, so.
Yeah, so have I. That's the issue, and that's why Hobie, originally we were supposed to get a jib. In fact, my sail's got the webbing on it for the jib attachment, but they never released it because that was the reason. It overpowers, and breaks things. It's not strong enough. The unstable. I was actually surprised that they came out with the Spinnaker, but the clever design of the Spinnaker is that it actually ends up staying your mast. It's like you have a backstay on the mast.
Right,
and that's what helps.
Halyard acts as a backstay, in that Spinnaker.
Yeah.
And it gives it a little more strength fore and aft.
It does.
Yeah.
I might try and share my screen just to show a quick photo of a recent, what I'm calling a safety edition. Bear with me, I'm very new to this Zoom, so I'll just try. Can anyone see that picture?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, you put the clip in. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is obviously an idea that others have done on the forum before. I thought about it for a year, and I've just added that 2 weeks ago to all 4 points.
How's that working?
It's working well because it's actually doubled as a tie-down point for luggage and things like that I sit camping luggage in the front seat while I sail from the back. So overall, I feel more comfortable with that, but time will tell.
Did you? I was looking to do that initially in my when the TI first came out. They did have trouble with the things releasing. This is back in 2010, and I looked at doing that, but then I thought they need to revolve. That needs to rotate a bit. Does that still allow the rotation or not? It doesn't.
The hole that I drilled through the internal part is marginally larger.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. You'd have to do is elongate that hole. So because that's one of the important things they did with that new ACA design over the original AI had a fixed pin, and that used to elongate the holes would elongate over time, and that's why they came out with this design. And it's supposed to a little bit of rotation that way within the crossbar. Yeah, but and that pin looks bulletproof for sure. You're not going to have a disconnection with that.
I have to. Thanks for sharing that. That's an excellent idea because Hobie came out with that kit, right, to improve the ACA's locking in. I haven't done the upgrade on that. You may have seen I had a video when I was doing surf launches where the front Aka popped out in the middle of a wave, and then the whole AMA, two things happened. A big wave hit while I was going out. It's a shame I don't have time to cue it up right here, but big wave hit while I'm surf launching, it knocked me back a little bit, and I didn't know, but it actually snapped the rudder pin, so I had no steering. But then the AMA knuckle popped out on the front port side, and it kind of swung out. And to my amazement, it kind of swung out to the side because I didn't have any safety lines or anything. And then it came back, and the AMA ended up going across the hole, sitting on the hole while I'm surfing in backwards on these big waves. And my brain was trying to say, what is going on? And I had no steerage, and it was an interesting time. But there's a great one of my surf launches. You'll see it in there. It'll bring a smile to your face.
Yeah, I've seen that. Once again, the lines, it's easier to fix just with lines. Or I found the trampolines, once I had the trampolines on, we had no disconnection problem at all because one of those straps actually goes onto the crossbar.
Yeah, it keeps a little more tension on there. What I've done in the meantime is I've actually tied it on from one across the hole to the other side, two lines, kind of like a safety line to hold the AMAs in. Enough play that I can still fold them in, but when they're fully extended, they provide tension, back to keep them locked in. But I like that safety pin idea, just to roll through it, and that might be my next thing. And the other thing I have is the rivets on all of my Akas are dropping out. They're just rusting out, and I've been actually just putting Gorilla Tape over them just to hold them in. And I'm waiting for my Hobie dealer to get me some, there's some kind of a kit where I can re-rivet them in.
On that's a common problem. Mine lasted a couple of years. I found when I redid it, because they never used to epoxy the Akabar into that joint, but they did, that's part of the kit. But I ended up using Sikaflex 100, the marine sealant, and just stainless rivets, and I never had an issue. It was rock solid. Yeah. And there was one guy for him who didn't even bother with the rivets. He just used the Sikaflex, and he didn't have an issue either. So I think when you get round to doing it, think about the sealant as well, or the epoxy. Yeah. I actually like the sealant because it stays flexible.
That's a neat design that Hobie has. I did find the video of the engine here running out of New York City earlier this week. I'll share it with you here. It just shows you the Suzuki. Let me just bring that up. And I think you guys could see it, but can you see the screen after I hit the button? Can you see the screen?
Yep.
All right, so this is the Suzuki. This is Manhattan back here. This is one of the cameras I have on a boat. It's just a short.
Storm! Big storm coming.
All right, I won't show the whole clip, but anyway, it gives you an idea of, one, just the speed. You can see kind of how fast you can get going with the gas-powered, the electric. And again, this is just a big, huge storm that was about to hit. Luckily, I made it back just to the boat ramp just as the high winds and hail and rain came down.
Wow.
You've got some awesome speed going there. Envious.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
The speed you're going at is unreal, like in the outboard motor. What's the noise like? Does it bother you sitting in the
No, it's a pretty quiet four-stroke, for outboards anyway, so it's not too bad. Right there, I'm only running probably at 3/4 throttle.
Yeah.
I rarely run it at full flat out. Most
That's
of the time,
right.
at 20 to 50% throttles most, and it goes around 5-6 knots, which is plenty. And sometimes I'll go with the sail also and the motor at the same time. I might be doing a 50-mile run, you know, and run into some currents or things.
Yeah, I had hours up to 7 knots with the motor at about 3/4 throttle. Depending on where I sat, I actually found that sitting in the middle seat, in the front seat, where I went faster than this is solo.
Yeah.
It cruised better sitting in the middle than in the back seat when using the motor. So much so that I made up a tiller extension, a bit like Bob did, that
Yeah.
I could control the throttle from the forward seat. Yeah.
All right, I know we only got a little bit of time left. You guys okay to go a few more minutes over?
No
Yeah.
problem.
You know, it's up to us. So the other thing I wanted to share is just some ideas around what I'm really hoping for is that, and I don't think Hobie has enough sales of the islands to justify it, but I was hoping that they would update the Tandem Island and the Adventure Island, put in some of the newer features that they've added to their fishing kayaks. You know, with the larger hatches and some of the different designs that they've recently done. I was hoping at some point Hobie would update the mold for the Tandem Island and the Adventure Island. And then as part of that, I put together a whole bunch of ideas. You probably may have seen them on the forum. I want to just share that and just walk through some of my thinking. It was mostly all around, let me know if you could see my screen. See it?
Yeah.
So I just did a bunch of brainstorming about, you know, if you really wanted to optimize the islands for more coastal sailing, if we can use that term, you know, what would be the things that I would say would be things to go after? So this was, quote, the max wish list. And then the next slide, this one here was kind of a halfway point. It's basically saying, all right, keep all the accessories for the Hobie Island the same and only change the hull. And in this case, you know, the stuff in green would be the things that I would recommend to kind of change just from the existing Tandem Island as it sits now. So the major things would be to get rid of that front hatch that leaks all the time and put in a more secure, larger hatch. Put in the same thing back here, similar to what they've done with the Outback. And this orange thing here is just it is a cut and paste of a new Outback, 2019 Outback. So, and I just did a double stretch with some Photoshop to show a 2-seat tandem island. But they added the place they flattened out this part of the kayaks, of the hull, so that you can stand on it, right? They don't have all those ridges. Kind of flatten that out, give it a good standing platform. And I had basically put the same thing back here. They got the H rails on both sides, give you a little better mounting for various attachments. The thing I would really hope for is they'd have some kind of a slip-in outboard mount, you know, just built into the boat as an option. You could just buy it as an accessory, and it would just drop in to some, you know, maybe you know how they have the fishing rod holder holes for the fishing poles, but something like that. You could just drop in an outboard mount. They had the flatter back. They had the handle in the back here to be able to lift it and pull it. Well, anyway, you know, it was kind of compromised. Up on this page was more saying, all right, keep the AI the same, keep the TI the same, but come up with a new Hobie Island offshore or coastal version. You know, basically a new version of the island. And some of the things that were recommended here about, you know, the hull size, we talked about that crew limit. Increase that to 1 to 3, increase the capacity up to 700 pounds. You know, and by doing this, certainly it's going to make a heavier boat. You know, I know there's a lot of people want to keep it as light as possible. The mast, you know, trying to get a little taller mast, to get a little more fore and aft bracing, so make the front be able to support a jib up here, so strengthening the bow, if you will. Maybe even adding a bowsprit on the front. Stern, squared off stern, rectangular hatches. The other big beef I got is just the Aka bars. They really are just basically, if you compare this, the AI and the TI, to all the other Mirage Drive kayaks that Hobie has, the number of inches off the water, from the water line to the top edge of the gunnel, the Islands sits in the water the lowest by about 2 to 3 inches on average, compared to the Oasis, to some of the other, if any of you guys have been in any of the other pedal drive kayaks. But the Tandem Islands sit basically lowest in the water. I guess the best way I can describe it. Because of that, these Akas, that hold the Amas out, they constantly get clipped by the waves, right? It causes a lot of water to come up. A lot of people put the spray skirts up here to some limited advantage. But I think it's mainly because these Akas, they go straight across, and the hull is low to the water. So any kind of wave that comes through here, it's going to be a very wet ride. Just the way it is. But if they were to raise the water line like they've done in the Oasis or some of the other kayaks that they have, I think it would give them more capacity for a crew. It would also raise these Akas a little bit higher off the water to less chance for the waves to chew them up. The other thing I've seen on non-Hobie trimaran kayaks, mostly out in the Polynesian area, is that the Akas don't go straight across. They kind of arch up. Arch up on both sides to give a little more clearance there. And I'm trying to figure out some way, if many of you use the tramps, and anybody that sits on the tramps drags in the water most of the time. With any kind of a small wave, it's a very wet ride in the tramps. Because these Akas because the main hole sits a little lower, and the Akas are straight across, and the tramps are then just only a couple inches off the water. And because of that, it slows down the boat speed, wetter ride. So I was thinking if they could just raise that up a couple inches, maybe even get a little bit of a bend here rather than straight across. Still be flat here, but raise it up a couple inches on either side. I think the tramps would be a lot more usable. There's probably downsides to it also, but anyway, I'm just sharing my thinking about, some of the ideas that I put together here. So this looked like to be too far. These ideas have been out there for a couple of years. Nobody's really run with them. I was thinking a compromise was, okay, we'll just take what you did for the Outback change and just put that into the Tandem Island main hull. And that might give you a number of advantages going forward. So anyway, I thought I'd just take a minute to share those ideas with you guys, get some of your thoughts on it.
Have you tried Haka?
I haven't, with the hard boards or some other, I have not.
Yeah. To me, that's up there with they're up there with the outboard as far as changing the sailing experience. It makes it so much drier. All that you spoke of, you're out of the splash, you're sitting up high, you can hike out so you can actually get the boat level.
Yeah.
And you don't get an aimer digging in, It just transformed the experience, really.
Yeah, and you don't get the sag of the trampolines either.
You don't get the sag of the trampoline. I love the trampoline, but you're right, your bum drags in the water.
Yeah.
With the Haka, you're sitting up high, you're out to the side more, so you're not getting the splashes of water in your face. That and the outboard were probably the two main mods that made the most difference with the TI.
And I haven't done the Akas. I mean the Hakas, right terms here. And for those who haven't seen them, there's basically 2x4 boards or some other material that goes across the two Akas, kind of where these paddles are almost, that you could sit on.
Yeah. Hobie, according to the latest posts, Hobie are looking at that as an accessory, which is quite remarkable. After that, there's guys posted those aluminium ones that he's made, which they look tremendous. I mean, if I made mine out of aluminium, but it was aluminium tube. but he's folded it up. And I mean, if I was after one, I'd be buying one of his over there in America.
Yeah.
Sells.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see Hobie come up with like a standard, outboard mount as an accessory, the Akas as an accessory. I think they could make some money on it, and it'd be a good standard update. But anyway, I thought I'd share these ideas with you guys. These are more for helping out with offshoring or coastal sailing. And then for safety, the other thing
A Zoom meeting.
I should put you on the payroll, Jim, and get you designing Hobie stuff for them.
Call and text Jesse.
Yeah,
And you do that.
possibly, yeah, maybe.
I already texted him happy birthday, but call
You
him.
might want to mute, Robert.
Yeah, Robert, you might want to mute yourself. I muted him. I muted him, so anyway, he wants to, he can ask to unmute. Anyway, so these are just some ideas, both on.
Sorry, if I may interrupt, Alejandro here. Do any of you know if Hobie is actually working on a new hull for the Tandem Island?
I do not.
Well, I've asked that question the last 3 years at the boat show we used to have here before COVID to Steve Fields, who's the boss of Hobie Australia. And each year he's hinted that they were, but they've never released anything.
Yeah, I think they're making.
Apparently what they do is the various reps put in ideas for what to do for the boats, and some get accepted and some get rejected. But a larger TI, something like you've got there, Jim, has been on their look list, but it's never made it off the design sort of stage.
Yeah, this, I don't know if I'm still sharing or not, but this slide here, can you still see this slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was, I'll call it the bigger island. It would be, AI would be the smallest, TI would be in the middle, then this would be the bigger one, that would cover bigger stuff. And then the other option was, all right, keep that TI the way it was, just change the hull, and all the other things could stay exactly the same. No change to the mast, no change to the Akas, no change to the Amas. You just change the hull, basically.
Yeah.
No change to the sail plan or anything like that. But anyway, it's just an idea that I put out there, and I don't know. I'm hoping that they make some of these changes, and then I might sell my existing TI-16 and go for an update. But so that was the last thing I was going to share. Does anybody else have anything they would like to share?
I just want to ask a question. So if you have the Hakas, I enjoy sitting in the seat because I freak out. Like if I'm on the side, I'm going to fall off or something like that. Like how do you actually control? I know you can get the extension thing for the steering, but how do you control like the main sheet and stuff? Yeah,
you need to get the extreme angle fair lead at the front. It's just a simple swap out. And you keep the cleat, but it's just a different front section of it, like where it goes, and it allows you to operate the sheet from any angle. So you could be right out on an aimer even and still cleat the sheet off. So it worked really well. So yeah, Parker, look, honestly, I'm saying they're up there with the outboard as far as as the difference it makes to sailing. I just loved it in the end. I built 3 of them. The version 3 on the TI was cantilevered out so that you could actually get up from your seat and easily hop onto the side of it. It just made such a difference to sailing, really did. I put some videos up there, yeah.
Given the comment from Jeff on the loss of pointing ability with raising the main sheet tie off in the back, I might promote that idea for my next project and maybe work on the Hakas as an idea for a future project.
Well, just give it a go. I mean, honestly, it was huge transformation in how the boat handled, especially the TI solo.
Yeah.
Really well. Yeah.
All right, if nobody has anything else to share, I was gonna also just share a little bit about just safety for coastal offshore sailing. Briefly, the two main safety things I use is one, the outboard, I already mentioned. Second one is a dry suit. I sail a lot in Four Seasons, and even sometimes in early summer or early fall when it's still warm out, I might still put a dry suit on just for safety to avoid hypothermia. So to me, that's been a big advantage. And then also having the right safety equipment, EPIRB and life jackets, that kind of thing. So if you're doing this type of coastal sailing where you're could be in currents where, especially if it's solo and things break, you're gonna have to rely upon what you brought with you to kind of stay alive. So I know Damien, sounds like you're doing a little bit of that solo stuff.
Yeah, and I'll second the dry suit. Like when I previously owned my last Hobie, I think almost 6 months of the year it sat there because it's just too cold. And now I bought a secondhand Stolquist AMP dry suit, and just having the pants with the built-in sock basically, so you can launch and you can it's cold, like it doesn't actually like shield any of the temperature, but you can put merino socks on underneath and whatever, and like it's a real game changer to get out. Like the water temperature here is, I don't know Fahrenheit, but it's about 16, 17 degrees. I was out yesterday until dark, and it's great. Got back in the car, it was 11 degrees, and I wasn't cold all day.
Going against current.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're right, because I commuted all year, so I'd go through the middle of winter as well. I'd be on the water at 5:30 in the morning. It'd be pitch black. And the best thing I bought were either the pants. I didn't get a full dry suit, but I got pants with built-in socks. Or the simplest thing was a thing called launch socks from Kokatat that come up past your knees, and then you can wear normal socks underneath, and they were brilliant. They were brilliant.
Sorry about that. Everything's still working?
Yeah, did you get that? Or
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, keeping your feet warm is the most important thing over here anyway. We don't get the temperatures you get over there, I don't think, Jim.
We got, I'll share another quick, so for those who don't know what a dry suit is, some of you may not, but share, this is just a little clip here. Let me know if you see it or not. Yes, no?
Yep.
Yep.
So anyway, that's just winter sailing. I got the dry suit on. Sometimes I'll go out with this gas helmet too, with the water spray constantly hitting your face. Water's 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cold, like ice water, hitting your face. So a lot of times I'll use that face shield, that comes with the helmet to help out. All right, and the other thing, go ahead.
Sorry, they're the launch socks.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're much cheaper than a full dry suit.
Yeah.
And probably for here, that's all we really need,
Yeah.
Because you can put a jacket and pants on, but keeping your feet warm is the big thing.
And I'll share one more thing just for safety and another video clip. This is from B&B Boats, and I'll just share it here. So just give me a second. More on what they put on their life jacket. And this is part of the Water Tribe, where they do those Everglade challenges that I mentioned, where they're going, 300 miles, and they go right through the night. They're sailing at night. They're out in the ocean sailing through the night in islands. They're GPS navigating through, channels and stuff. But the suits, the life jackets and what they carry is also very important. Let me just run this for, this is like a 15-minute video. I'm not going to run the whole thing, but I just want to give you a taste for it.
Things
Guys
that
can,
vary. Okay, this is my PFD. I've got it on, obviously.
Can you hear it
It's a
okay?
Kokatat Misfit model,
Yep.
and I'll have links in the description of the video for all the things that I'm showing here. I'll go over all the stuff on the front, and then we'll take it off and we'll take it apart. So on the front here, starting on my left-hand side, I have a pocket here. And one of the nice things about this PFD is that it has a lot of pockets. And actually, one of the main benefits to wearing the PFD is to have all these things at hand, ready to go whenever you need them. So starting on the left here in this pocket, I have a whistle that's on a string tied to the strap that's built into the PFD. I've got my Leatherman Wave on a snap shackle, and I'll oftentimes leave it attached to the snap shackle, but I can take it off really easily if I want to. The Leatherman Wave has a built-in little lanyard hook that I utilize. It's kind of hidden in there, but they all have it. And so I use this all the time, and you know, it's right there, ready to use. I've also got in here another line that's got some electrical tape on string if I need to wrap up a knot or something like that. And I usually keep my spork in here so that I don't have to go searching for it when it's time to, you know, eat a freeze-dried meal or something like that. And everything's online, so when I pull it out of the pocket, everything can just hang there. I'm not going to lose it. And when I'm done doing whatever I'm going to do, I can just stuff all this stuff back in the pocket. So a lot of times it all comes out when I pull something out, but it goes right back in. This pocket is not full yet, so I'll put trash in there if I have some trash or something else. Okay, next here we have a knife, and the Water Tribe recommended equipment list, which I'll also have linked, requires a knife that can be operated with one hand. And technically, I think the Leatherman counts, but you know, you can see right now I'm kind of having to fumble for it, and then you have to open it before you could use it. So if you're actually trying to cut yourself away from something, you probably wouldn't want to use that. So this knife here I found online. It's a real cheap one, and you just pull the snap and pull it out, and it's got a serrated edge and a straight edge. This one's just a metal knife with some holes in it and some paracord wrapped around the handle. It's not a particularly great knife. It was cheap, that's all. And I have it mounted upright as opposed to pulling down because the handle tends to snag on stuff. I don't have this knife on a lanyard, although it should be. I just didn't get around to sawing it off. Next we have my GPS right here for my right hand. And this pocket, I guess, would be used for a VHF, but I use it for my GPS. And just like everything else, it's tied on. This has got a carabiner, and I like it on a carabiner because if I'm sailing at night, what I'll often do is I'll unclip it from my PFD and turn the backlight on, you know, to be staying on, and I'll clip it off to the end of the sheet or something so I can set it on the cockpit seat in front of me. And that way I don't have to be constantly checking. I can just look down and it's got, you know, the minimum backlight. And
All right, I'll stop it here. It goes on for some time, but basically he's got the VHS radio here. He's got the EPIRB up here. On the back, he's got if you remember, he turned around, he's got a backpack kind of on the back of his life jacket here. Where was it? Did a little 360 here at some point, but anyway, there's a backpack that he keeps emergency survival equipment in, like space blankets, emergency flares, that kind of stuff. So that if he falls overboard, he has everything, you know, that he needs, hydration, etc., and all that fits right on the back, you know, flashlights, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I just share with that, and then there are some links here to all the stuff that he uses, which you might find useful. And then also, you mentioned the Water Tribe. So anytime you enter one of the Water Tribe events, there's a checklist of all the safety equipment you've got to have on board, and they actually inspect every boat, every kayak before they start. You have to have all this gear on. Everything he's showing there is mandatory requirement. You don't have it, you're kicked out. So they have that for, you know, for safety. All right, I'll stop sharing there. And come back to here. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We're definitely over on time. But let me just open it up. Any last questions you guys have? Hopefully this was of some help.
I'd just say one of the things that you'd need to check is that the bolt under the mast base. You've got to check the tightness of that. Constantly do that, because that's been an issue.
Yeah, and the V brace also.
They're pretty much bulletproof, but that's a weak link. And I know in later models they went to a bigger bolt, but the earlier ones, I think, are only quarter inch.
Yeah.
And but just, that's something that needs to be checked. There's not much needs to be checked, but that's probably the biggest thing. The little stud at the.
Yeah, one of the videos I posted actually earlier this year. In March, I was sailing in Florida just before the Everglades Challenge, and I had that bolt snap on me while under sail. It was only a moderate sail, wasn't going that hard, but that bolt snapped, and the whole mast kind of slumped to the side, stayed up, but kind of slumped over to the side a little bit. And at first I'm saying, well, what's going on? And then I immediately realized that something was afoul here, and pulled the mast out, got into the shore with the outboard. Again, the outboard saved me there. Got it to the beach where I did an inspection and saw the bad news. And I went to I was going to the Everglades Challenge in Sarasota, up on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And this was like the day before, and I scrambling for how to fix it. So I came across the Tackle Shack. These are a couple of Hobie dealers right here, and this is my boat. We had to take the H-rail off, take that apart. We had to then go down and take out the mast receiver. And the bolt, of course, had sheared off right flush with the bottom, so there was nothing you could grab. And we had to play with it. They helped me get started, but then I think it's Peter, card here, yeah. Andrew Levine, excellent guy. That's the guy here with the sunglasses. He was a big help. We were eventually able to, he helped get it started, but I was when finished it to get the bolt out because it broke off flush with the bolt where it screws into the bottom of the TI. And then when we took it apart, we had to take the mast receiver apart just to get down in there. What we found was the mast receiver. You see this here? How chewed up it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what it looks like before. This is the replacement part. This is what it's supposed to look like. And this is what it ended up looking like before it snapped. And I believe what happened was down inside here is a V brace that ties into the H rail going across. It's the main strong point for the boat to keep the mast braced. And those V bolts worked their way loose, so the mast was gently rocking back and forth over time. And I didn't pick up on it early enough, and it kind of ground down the mast receiver, and then eventually snapped the bolt on the bottom of the boat. And this is one of the this is a Hobie 16, right? TI 2016. So this is a bigger bolt, and it still snapped it. So while we're in there, we said, heck, after I saw that, I said, well, luckily he had these parts on hand, right? So he was able to swap out to the new mast receiver with a new stainless steel bolt. We worked together to tighten down the V brace, put some of the Loctite on it to hold it in place. This was.
I think that the reason it snapped is because the locking nut loosened. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
If it's held securely down over that nub in the hull,
should move around.
It's not going to snap. So
yeah.
The combination of the stud loosening and the V brace adjustment being out,
Yeah. So a combination of those two caused my trouble. And of course I sail it pretty hard and it's sailed pretty frequently. So more wear than the average TI. And of course the week later after I got this all fixed up, of course all my marbles dumped out.
Yeah. That's another common problem. Yeah.
I had to go up and get 2 new plates and a new set of marbles, so for the
Yeah.
roller reefing.
Hobie have been very good in improving things. Mine was a 2010, and I snapped that top plate that the mast actually sits on.
Yeah.
That was a problem. Then they went through a through welded, so they welded it all the way through to the back. It was one piece. I've snapped the pin that the mast rotates on at the bottom there.
Yep.
That can rust out a bit, and that can weaken. But that was rare, so that was replaced. And then the stud, you've just got to check the tightness. That's all you've got to do with that.
Yeah.
Check that it's completely tight.
I think that might be I've been working on all day today. You probably can't see it, but I'm working on a list of all the dropping out on my video. But anyway, I got a long list of things of safety checks I've been doing on the boat, and checking that B-brace was one of them, but I'm going to add to check the tightness of that nut right now.
Yeah, I think that's actually more important. The stud is the thing that needs to be tight.
Yeah.
And it's actually the stud, it's the lock nut on top of it.
Yeah.
The stud itself screws in. I guess that can loosen, but if you've got I suppose it is both. It's a stud and then it's the nut as well, which is a nut hole down. Yeah.
Is there any way you can share that list? The checklist?
I mean, I could. A lot of it's just stuff that was broke on my boat that I'm fixing. But yeah, I guess I could put it up there. I'll take a look at it. And half of it was repairing some stuff on the trailer. I had to redo the trailer lights. They're constantly being submerged, and over time they just rusted out. So I moved them up on some PVC pipes so they don't go underwater anymore. Normal stuff, but I guess I could share this list. It's got nav lights on here. It's got, I mean, I could share it. There's nothing proprietary about it. I'll have to clean it up. It's all scratched off and stuff added and handwritten, and well, maybe it's better that way. Maybe I'll share it that way. But,
maybe we can learn from your experience and appreciate it.
Yeah, and look, for all you new island owners, the forum got a huge amount of wealth of info there.
Yeah.
If you just do a search, the search engine is really good. So you can search specifics, and there's sadly a lot of the pictures went when Photo Bucket had those, that issue. But there's a lot of info there, and all that we spoke about's been covered on the forums a number of times.
Yeah, the forum's excellent. Excellent.
It's a great resource. It really is.
It really is. Hey, I'm going to do a picture. Would you guys give me your best smile here? I'm just going to do a screenshot. I'm going to post it up on the forum. Let me just see if I can make sure I got the right thing. Put it here. Give me your best smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, hopefully I got one of them. But it is recorded, and I'm going to post it probably on YouTube the next week or so. And then I'll also put a little summary up on the forum, mostly just a picture of everyone's smiling faces here. And I know we're definitely over time now, but any last words before we pull the plug on this fun gathering here?
I'd just like to add that, particularly for people like Alejandro and any newcomers interested in buying a boat, like we're talking about the extreme limits of some of these, like in general, like for families or just a bit of fun, like they're absolutely a fantastic craft, and you can't go wrong in the various things you can do with them. It really opens up a lot of new adventuring, and I think that's important to sort of call out, given we're sort of pushing the limits on them and making modifications, and just it's basically the icing on the cake that we're trying to achieve for them.
Yeah.
Good point. It's definitely the most versatile boat out there, I reckon.
I'd like to I'd just like to thank you for putting this together and putting your videos out there for us to watch too, because it's your videos have actually, before we got our boat, it really kicked on, getting one.
I'll share one last picture here. So this is 2 days ago. Taking my 2-year-old grandson for his first sail in the Hobie.
Yeah.
This is more on a freshwater lake, you know, not offshore type stuff. This is where I think most of the islands spend most of their time.
Yeah.
And it's a great boat for that. And, you know, so he had a blast. He'd just hang his hand over and we'd be going through the water very gently here. And, yeah, and our whole discussion here was more on the challenging parts when you're offshore in, you know, ocean waves and things. But it's a great boat for the, you know, just for the enjoyable family time. So if you're thinking about that, it's fantastic for younger kids.
It is. Yep. Agreed.
All right, and then last
I'd love to
thing,
do this. I'd love to do this more often. Like, I think it's such a great initiative, and yeah, it'd be great to regularly catch up with you guys and share knowledge.
Yeah, those are my next question. Would there be any interest in maybe doing this once or twice a year? Just kind of an experiment for me, just to try this out. But you know, I learn a lot from the forum, and this is just another way to kind of share things, I think, in the same venue.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right, well, I'll probably put something out there, and maybe, you know, maybe winter months up here in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe December or January, maybe we'll do another one. You know, if there's enough interest. I know it'll be in the middle of the summer for our friends in Australia, and you have a beautiful country down there for the Aussies. So I spent some time working in Sydney and up in Cairns, and I didn't have an AI or TI at the time, but I was just working away in my biochemistry. So, but I really enjoyed the country. And same for Europe, Switzerland. I spent some time 6 months ago working in Switzerland, same thing. And very little wind, though. Not too much wind in Switzerland. At least when I was there.
True.
All right, everyone, we'll say goodbye. Thank you for joining. Hope you got something good out of it.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Yep. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. See ya.
Thanks all. See you. Bye.